Hello.
Hello and welcome. So
Perfect.
let's
Hey,
move on. I think you have a first slide, right?
indeed.
Introduction. So yes, my name is Katrin Wedekind. I have probably worked with some of you. Names sound familiar. I'm in the technical account management team and also work with our partners internationally. And I have the pleasure to join Jen again. Hooray! To present the newest features from the product team. And I know how it feels when you're implementing, so we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited also. I'm not so close to development anymore as I used to be. So good chance to catch up.
Perfect.
All right, up to you, Jen.
Thank you very
That's it?
much. Yeah,
Sure.
so what we can look at now is, this is just kind of an overview of the topics that we'll cover today. As you can see, we have quite a lot to cover, so hopefully I don't speak too quickly. Katrin is also here to slow me down if I speak too fast. So I will try and contain my excitement and speak slowly. So we'll firstly have the updated Lightning Wizard for content creation. We also have a Lightning Web component for frequency capping. I will show once again our enhanced publisher payout credit note PDFs. We'll also talk about a new and very exciting feature, which is the enhanced invoice customization via email templates. We'll briefly mention, of course, also kind of new API functions that we have, which are the optimizer and the amount calculation. We also have the new GAM API version and 2 new features as well for GAM, which we'll talk about as well. And we'd also like to give you a brief overview of our AI price prediction prototype. And I think which a lot of people are interested in, which is not here, is also just a little quick summary of the security changes that we've had recently. So those are quite a lot of topics to cover. So let's just jump straight in and I will go over to our demo org. And I already have it open. Perfect. So the first thing we want to look at is the content wizard. And of course, the problem here usually for customers is how to quickly and easily create and assign content to your inventory without, of course, a lot of manual work, a lot of overhead, a lot of effort, especially when you're maybe creating and assigning in bulk. We did have this wizard before in Classic, so this is, of course, the Lightning version of it. And what you can see here is, so if we have 2 tabs, we have the content creation tab and the content ad price assignment tab. And what you can do, of course, in the content creation section is you can create content. So for example, we will create one for the Hamburg Airport departure area. You can then assign it to a parent content, which of course in this case would be the all airport content. Set it to active. You can set then other criteria such as the quantity, the maximum applicability and minimum maximum applicability unit. Sorry, many words there to read at once. You can also create multiple by just adding a row. So maybe if I wanted to also create perhaps the food court in Terminal 1, and also, of course, assign that to the Hamburg. It doesn't have to have a parent, but of course, in this case, it does have a parent. And then if you just press Save Contents, then those 2 contents are created successfully. Then, of course,
and I can customize those and change the fields if I have some other fields and add those like with the other wizards.
Yeah. Exactly. So you can
another feature setting or something.
Yeah, and configure what's there and what's required, etc.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And then we also have our content ad price assignment, or the assignment tab. And as you can see here, we have our Hamburg Airport all airport. If I expand this a bit, we'll see there is already an arrival area. We now have a departure area, and here's the one, the food court terminal 1 as well.
Do you get all ad prices or just one price list?
Here are all the ad prices. You could scroll down. If you click in, it's loading. This org actually doesn't have many ad prices in it. So these are.
Yeah, so I don't filter, but I could filter by price list, right? Search by first limited to certain rate cards, and then.
At the moment, you can only search via the names. So you can search for ad price name, or I can change here as well, which is of course more, I think, user friendly, is the ad spec name. So for example, I can search here banner or banner. Oops. There we go. You can search via that. You can also then select them here. multiples if you want, or in this case, if I want to assign the entire thing. But if I just want to assign the 2 that I just made, for example, and I can assign that to, we'll just do that one, just simply to my list, and just press Save Assignments, and then it tells you that I've correctly assigned those 2 contents to that particular ad price that I had selected.
And assigning it to placements, so a lot of time I do placement assignment. That's not possible yet?
Not yet. It is in the pipeline. So yes, yet is the optimum word there. It's not possible yet, but it is in the pipeline. Yeah. So that should be keeping
that's good. Yeah, because it saves a little bit of time.
Yeah, definitely. So our users can keep an eye on the release notes for that. Nicole and the core product team are working on that. Yeah, so that was our content creation wizard in Lightning. Next is also a Lightning topic, which is the frequency capping as a Lightning Web Component. So if I just flick over here to a media campaign that I already have created, and I'll just quickly jump into the media config. So what this is actually part of kind of an overall plan that we have this year to migrate the media config to Lightning, and we're obviously starting off by slowly migrating specific components and specific sections. That way it's kind of easier in the long run to migrate the whole thing. And what we have here, of course, if we go to frequency capping and press edit like I just did, this is our frequency capping Lightning Web Component new. As you can see, pretty shiny Lightning design. You can add rows, you can put in information per 1 day or 1 hour or whatever, and delete, clear things, quite a user-friendly design here, quite quick and lightning, so to say. So it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel or anything, it's just recreating the existing component, but as a Lightning Web Component. So hopefully a better experience for the users, and of course, looks nicer and helps in the end when we have a beautiful Lightning media config to show you guys someday.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's a quick and easy one just to show. It's nice to have it done.
And that one I need to activate somehow?
No, it's automatically there in the media config.
With the new version, you just get the Lightning.
Exactly. It replaces the existing one.
Okay. So even better. Nothing to do.
Exactly. Nothing to configure. Just a useful feature straight away available for you.
Okay.
Oops. So the next thing that we have is our publisher payout enhanced credit note. And what that does, it is an enhanced layout where we can clearly show you the amount being paid out, as well as the relation to the revenue earned and how much was delivered in that particular case. So maybe for any customer who's on the line, who was in our previous webinar at some point, maybe autumn, I think last year, where I did a webinar on the publisher payout with Miriam, our customer relations manager. We showed you a sneak peek of this when it was in progress, and now it's of course finished and has been released as part of Winter. And what we can do here is if I just, here's obviously a publisher payout contract. If I just look over here and I go to one of my credit note media campaigns, which I think I already created my invoice for, let me double check. Yep, there it is. It's not invoiced yet, but it's there. And if I just press show document, you'll see what I mean by the new layout. So just give it a second there to load.
Coming up.
Yeah, so straight away here now you can see on the cover letter that you have a much more comprehensive overview of what's being paid out. So first of all, you see here the paid out impressions at the very, very top. This of course is configurable whether or not you want it there. You then see the total amount that was collected with regards to this publisher payout contract in this particular month. You see how much of that is being reserved, so how much you keep, also a percentage in case that's also useful, and how much is being paid out. So in this case, $66.50 is being paid out. And if we scroll down, we have a credit note table, which then breaks that $66.50 up into the individual publisher payout conditions and breaks down the paid out impressions, so 150,000, for example, the amounts that were collected overall, which is 525, and then how much is being kept percentage-wise again, just in case that's a preferred way of people reading it, and the total amount that's being paid out. So it's broken down so you can really clearly see what was earned, what's being paid out, what's kept, how much was delivered, So just kind of giving the credit note recipient a much more detailed view as to what's being paid out. Yeah, so that's something that does need a little bit of configuration in terms of you just need to decide whether or not you want to do it. It's something you have to actively turn on, but all the information for that is in our wiki. So it's not an effort, it's just a checkbox. So you can use this comprehensive one if you want, or of course stay with the one we had before, whichever you prefer, whichever is easier for your users and your credit note recipients. That's no problem. Yes, so next we have our invoice email templates. So this is something I know I have discussed with Katrin before. I've discussed with a few of our account managers and a few of our customers, which is when you issue invoices via email through ADvendio, which you can do, which is a very, very useful feature, a very, very useful function for our customers. What we previously did was we would send the email using the first email template that we had available in the system. And what that meant is that basically everybody would get the same email. Now, what users can do, if I just flick over here to the setup, don't get too alarmed. I'm not going to go into anything too setup specific or too technical. That's no problem. I just want to show the folder. But what you can do is you can create different templates, and you can use these templates then for your invoices, whatever way you like. So as you can see here in the email template section, we have a folder called invoice email. And usually for us, we just create it with one standard here, the kind of standard ADvendio template. But as you can see yesterday, I created one here in German. And what that means is that I can then set up, so here we have a German text. I can set up for this particular template to be used in specific cases where the debtor or the invoice recipient is a German speaker. So that way they can clearly see once they get the email, they can understand very quickly without having to maybe read in English or something like that. So you can really specify what that is. This can be used, as I mentioned, for languages. So you can have a German one, an English one, or what's also very important is it can be used to distinguish between legal entities. So of course you would want to say, from the correct company, because we do have some customers who are operating multiple legal entities or companies from the same org.
Yes.
And then even then multiple languages within those orgs. So this really helps you because you can create as many templates as you want and then use those for your invoicing to kind of have better, cleaner, clearer invoice emails being sent out to the users or invoice recipients, should I say.
Right, that's very, very good because we had this issue for a while with many customers. I know that. So then I can, how do I get now the match between actually having the German invoice template being used on my German legal entity or the French or the, I don't know, the something, the other logo of the other company I'm running? And
So what we did is we didn't specify any particular way for that to be distinguished. What we did is we just created a field on invoices, and that field can be populated in any way that you like. So for example, you can create workflows, processes, triggers, or whatever, which could see, okay, I'm using legal entity X with debtor Y, send them this particular template, and then it can fill that field on the media campaign, which will then which can then be populated on the invoices as well. We've left that completely up to the users because initially we were thinking of creating some way of actually we're thinking of hard coding it based on a language and a legal entity, but we thought there are so many ways that customers could use this. We'll leave it open to them how they use it. So there is a little bit of work, setup work needed there, but that really depends on how you want to use it. So it gives you complete flexibility.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That we can do. As long as it can be somehow controlled and then we can automate it in the back. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And if you've maybe referenced a template that doesn't exist anymore or one that's not available for use, you will of course get an error. So that way you can go back in and fix it and correct the issue. It won't just default and use the wrong one. It'll error and tell you, and then you have a chance to go in and fix it.
My Chinese template, yay.
Yeah. How the characters work with that.
Let's default to that one.
Just in case. Okay. English is the default. Yeah, so that's that one. I won't actually display any sending or whatever because that's just an email being sent, so it's not so interesting.
Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah, but just that you know that you can do it. You can read up in our wiki, of course, how to do it as well. The next thing that I would talk about would be this. At this point now, we don't have any more to demo. They're just things that I'll show you. So I'll just switch back to our presentation here. Is that we have our optimizer and our amount calculation available via API. So what that means is that by accessing the commercial optimizer via API, you can add items, edit items, very hard to say the two of those together, and also cancel items via API, so via the optimizer function. We already had an optimizer activation API as well available. We have then the amount calculation API, and two reasons that we did that, of course, was that for the optimizing version that would be created via the optimizer via API, you also have to make sure the calculations are correct. So that was needed to kind of round out that feature via API. And then, of course, we can use the amount calculation for the self-service amount calculation. So it was very good to have that available there. So kind of slowly adding to the number of features and functions that are available via API. So there are those two. And then, I suppose, speaking of APIs, we are, of course, as per usual, we are on the new GAM API version, and that is, let me have a look at my notes here, version 2020-11, so at the end of last year. And along with that, we have two very, very important or very exciting enhancements for GAM users, which is the first one is audio format support. So I think if anyone who's up to date on the kind of recently rolled out features and functions of GAM, there is, I think it was August last year, you can now have audio ads as well. And this is, of course, quite important for cross-media customers because now they can manage all of their inventory in one place. They can push these ads in the same way as they would push other formats. And this is also included in Programmatic Guaranteed, which we also support. So that's an exciting one if anyone on the line is interested in that. The next one is order approval. And what that means is that you can directly set an order or approve an order to set it live via ADvendio, so in ADvendio. This is quite important for the end-to-end integration, which we of course seek to have in ADvendio. This is both, of course, time and resource saving because you don't have to then go over to approve the order in GAM itself. And like I said, yeah, you can put them directly live from ADvendio.
Nice. So, not sure if Google likes it, but we like it.
Yeah,
you do everything from ADvendio and you don't need to switch between your systems. That's good.
Yeah, we like to save you guys time, resources, and energy in the long run. The next thing that we have is, my clicking wasn't working, here, which is our ADvendio AI extension. So this is a pilot scheme or a prototype, as I've been calling it. And what that is we have an artificial intelligence extension, which is working on price predictions. At the end of last year, we did reach out to some customers about this. And what it is it's of course an AI generated price prediction for digital items. It utilizes historical ad server data. We use this, of course, to train the model, which is based on industry-leading cloud architecture. And this will then predict prices based on the unique pricing criteria. And this can be done either on command or via a scheduled job. So, of course, whichever kind of suits your particular needs. Usually a scheduled job is nicer because it just runs in the background and maybe every month can update the ad price predictions if you would like.
So it helps sales to come up with new prices by predicting the impressions, or?
No, it will predict the reasonable price to charge for something given what has been achieved in the past, basically, for those items.
Okay, so the typical that I get when I go for, I don't know, eBay and I sell my, I don't know, something, my old car, and they say that old car usually brings you, I don't know, $1,000. Is that it?
Exactly. And we look at the 3 different criteria at the moment that we've trained the model for is the runtime, the ad type, and the slot size. And what we're looking for from customers, which is why we're also kind of reaching out now via the webinar, is people who are interested in this. If you are interested in this pilot scheme, in this prototype, if you think there might be some use for it in your organization, or you would like to just kind of find out more, please feel free to reach out to me. So my email address is here on the screen right now. Or as usual, you can of course go through our support portal or support@advendio.com, and that will also be routed directly to me. So whichever is easier, you don't have to memorize my long email address, that's no problem. You can just email support and they will direct you to me. But just we're looking for people who are interested in this to kind of work on it a little bit more, enhance it a little bit more. And of course, it's always better to do that with the insights of our customers. That's always the better approach. The next thing, which is maybe why a few people are here today, is our security enhancements. So, of course, at ADvendio, one of our main priorities is security of our product, security of your data, security of everything. And in this respect, we spent a great deal of amount of time in the past months working on security enhancements in cooperation with Salesforce. And this is done to ensure and upgrade the level of security that we provide to our customers. So as these enhancements are quite wide-reaching, we've recently sent out a communication to all customers, so maybe everybody here on the line has gotten that communication. And what that communication was meant to achieve was to make sure that you really follow our recommendation, which we recommend for every new version, of course, not just this version, is to test the installation in a sandbox, of course, to make sure that you know yes, that your usual flows and your usual workflows and everything work properly for the users that are going to do it as well. And this is not just for our benefit, of course, it's for the benefit of your users as well, that they're not interrupted when something is installed without having been tested. And we have sent out the email because we've put in, so these are the 4 core topics that we did in the security review. So we had to do some enhanced validations of user read permissions. Users now need to confirm certain actions taking place. I think many of the users of already prior to 2.1.37 have seen the confirmation modal, for example, for the pre-invoice wizard, where you have to say, yes, I would like to create pre-invoices. We also updated software versions in our code, not something that customer facing or anything like that, so that's totally fine. And we also had to change how certain information was accessed. That again is not necessarily customer facing, so that's fine. But what I was going to actually do here is, let's see if I can open this. Yeah. I have a few minutes time. I'm a little bit ahead schedule, but hopefully I wasn't speaking too quickly for anybody. So we've sent this link around as well as part of, never. Jennifer's never known for speaking too quickly. We sent around this communication, which kind of details a little bit. So those 4 topics that I just mentioned, if you scroll down, you get kind of an explanation as to what each one means and whether or not action is required on your part. Most of these do not require any action in theory, in terms of you do not need to do anything for them to be enforced. But, so for example, for the read access step, perhaps previously your profiles or your permission sets were not set up fully, and that can happen. And what might happen now is that users are trying to run a feature or access a feature that they do not have access to read the fields needed. So what I've done here is I have set out maybe some steps. So for example, this is an example of an error message you would get. And I'm wondering if I can play this video. Let's see if it kills the stream. Of course, somebody let me know in the chat if it kills the stream.
I can still see it.
That's the end. That's the end. Yeah, we start that again. So this is what will happen if you hit one of those validations in the, for example, I'm going to do here the verify VAT ID for the accounts. You know, this is a confirmation modal as well, for example. And here we have hit a violation. It tells you you do not have access to the VAT ID number in the account. And this user will then need to report that to an admin. So this person here is an admin. The admin will then need to go to that particular user, the user who reported it. It's the easiest way to find where to fix. So you go to that user, which is in this case my standard user.
But it tells you the object and the field?
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, you'll see it now in a second again when I go to the object setting here. I'll go to the account and then I'll show the error message again because I moved the window out of the way again just to make sure I'm checking the right field. We go into the account. Of course, this is the setup section of Salesforce, so it can be a little bit slow at times. Nothing to do with the connection of the webinar or the speed of the webinar. It's the setup here. So you can see here ADvendio VAT ID number, and it says object account. If I scroll down here, we can see, yep, my VAT ID number does not have read access. I set that to true. I scroll back up, I press save. And then of course the admin would tell the user, hey, try again, you know, should all be working now, should be fine for you. And then the user, which will be, of course, both of which are me in this case, I move eventually, once that has saved, the user will then be able to continue. They can go back to their accounts, do their VAT ID verification, on their accounts without hitting that access violation, because now they do have access to the necessary field in order to verify the VAT ID. So this is obviously a very simple example where it just says, you know, VAT ID number, account. If there are situations where you maybe encounter an error message which is different to this or which you can't really read, of course, feel free to always, you know, as we say here in the documentation as well, feel free to contact us at support. But most of the cases are like that. It just says this field in this object. And what's very, very important for this testing is that you test it with the user permissions of the person who will be doing this on a day-to-day basis, not the admin, the person who will actually be doing this. Yeah. So that's one very important one. And the next one, which you just got a sneak peek of because I accidentally went to the next slide too quickly, is things that we're working on in the background, which is our buying integration as well as our self-service. So we're currently working on the media buying integration, which is of course also very important for the end-to-end integration of ADvendio. We're working on DSP and social media integrations. And there will be a webinar on this topic, an updated webinar once we're kind of finished or further along in the process of the media buying integration. So keep an eye out for that one. We have our webinar page, which I'll show you in a second, where you'll be able to find out when this is relevant. Of course, maybe not relevant for everybody here on the line because not all of our customers have this aspect in their business, but maybe they know somebody who is or who might be looking for this. So keep an eye out for that. We also then have our self-service, and we have two new components that we were working on, which is the campaign creation and audience selection, which I'll show you in a second, a little sneak peek. And we also have two upcoming components, which is the shopping cart and the results list. Those will come up, I think, in the next release, which is 2.138. So they'll be in the spring version, but of course, same as the media buying. This won't be in a release webinar. It is so big and so important and so great, it will have its own webinar. So keep an eye out for the updated self-service webinar. Yes, where you'll see all these really new components. Yeah. And I'll give you a little sneak preview of them now. So it's not the full thing, but I just took some screenshots of the ones that we have. So what we have here is an example of the campaign creation screen. And here, of course, you can do a number of things which are relevant for the campaign. You set the name. You can set the goal, duration, and budget. So all of these things here. You then can press next, and you get through to the audience selection section. And what you can do here is you configure specific aspects of the audience selection. And these screens, of course, can be configured to maybe include or exclude certain components that you see here on the screen. These are just screenshots of the sample one that we have in our kind of demo orgs that we're working on. So these are the two that are already released. Two more are coming, and in the end, they will all come together to form the beautiful self-service, which we will show to you in a nice webinar, a dedicated webinar. Neat. Yes. So what we'll do now is we'll answer any questions you might have on the stuff that we've shown. Maybe just if you have any questions, you have a minute or so while we answer the other questions to answer them. Do we have anything in our questions? So what we do usually here is Katrin will ask the question and I will respond.
Yeah, let me check what was asked. The topic about the new media configuration. Somebody asked, what are the things I can expect from the new media configuration? I guess that was referring to that Lightning, the fancy Lightning new component, but also maybe functionality-wise?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's a good question. Yeah, so of course in the beginning, because we're migrating to Lightning is the correct word. The UI will of course be one of the main things we're focusing on to make it a Lightning UI. But what we'll also work on to make better is the performance, especially for our customers here who are working with quite large media campaigns, maybe sometimes encounter CPU limits or etc. We'll hopefully work on that with the new media config as well. And as already mentioned earlier, we will support the buy side. So that's something that we also want to integrate into the media config as well. So those are kind of three aspects that we'll kind of work on initially. But of course, the media config is so big, we'll work on little components as we build up and then do an overall migration as well to Lightning.
Okay, yeah. Then the next question about creative upload Google Ad Manager. And I was thinking that too. When we said we are now able to set a campaign live in Google Ad Manager, what mostly stops us from doing that is the creatives, right? They need to be ready. And has there been any movement on being able to push creatives to GAM from ADvendio, or did GAM remove that ability from the API?
No, GAM did not remove that from their API, so that was more of a thing on ADvendio's side. And what we are working on in the first 2 quarters of 2021 is to make that feature available again for you. So that feature, which is creative upload, in combination with the ability to put an order live directly from ADvendio, will really streamline the process for users. And there is no need then to go over to GAM afterwards, because you don't need to add the creative, you don't need to approve or set the order live. Everything can be done directly. And they're also working, so the team, this is obviously not my team, if anyone knows my team, I'm the finance team. They're also working on an ad material management and creative upload end-to-end process. So really making sure that it's kind of available end-to-end for users.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, I was thinking the same.
Yeah.
Very good question.
Yeah.
That's always coming up with many of my customers. Good. I think that was it. Last chance. If you want to put in another question, let us know.
And if not,
otherwise,
if it comes later, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you can always email us.
Email Jen, the one with a difficult last name.
If you're watching this later on and you have questions, of course, you can also email as well. And of course, you can also access our webinar content on demand. You can see release webinars like this, support topics, partner stories, all of which are on our website. So for example, I mentioned previously I did a publish with payout webinar, and if you're interested in that, you can find it here on this page, advendio.com/webinars. My little bar just covered the entire link on my side, but of course it didn't cover it for you guys, so you can still see it. So you can see the content there on our website.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, and hopefully that was interesting for you guys. If you have any more questions, of course, you can always email us, support, etc., like Katrin just said. And I believe here is also our difficult names and our titles. Thank you all today for attending and for staying until the end. I've been watching the number for some reason today. I've been watching the attendees and we've stayed pretty constant, so that's good. And thank you, Katrin.
All right, yeah, thank you, everyone. That was fun.
Yeah, have a good day.
Can I come next time?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.